Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a sortie on the indigenously built light combat fighter aircraft Tejas in Bengaluru. Massive rescue efforts operations in last phase to evacuate 41 trapped tunnel workers in India's Uttarakhand. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that Israel is committed to the return of all hostages.
I emphasis to you, the families, and to you, the citizens of Israel. We are committed to the return of all our hostages.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a sortie in the indigenously built light combat fighter aircraft Tejas on Saturday in the southern city of Bengaluru. On his visit to Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Prime Minister Modi reviewed the Tejas jet's manufacturing facility. The government has taken joint steps for increasing our defence preparedness and indigenization, which includes Tejas aircraft. An order worth rupees 36,468 crore for delivery of 83 LCA Mark 1A aircraft has been placed with HAL, and delivery is scheduled to begin by February 2024. Taking to social media site X, PM Modi shared his experience and hailed India's indigenous capabilities. He also asserted that nation's self-reliance in defense hardware is second to none. He wrote, "Successfully completed a sortie on the Tejas. The experience was incredibly enriching, significantly bolstering my confidence in our country's indigenous capabilities and leaving me with a renewed sense of pride and optimism about our national potential." Well, for more on this, I've been joined by DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre. Akshay, Prime Minister Narendra Modi flew in Tejas. What does it signify? And also tell us about twin-sector Tejas variant, twin-seater. How is it different?
Well, Siddharth, as far as what does this signify with the Prime Minister himself sitting in the indigenous aircraft that has been developed here, that has been developed with the hard work of the scientists, with all the technological prowess that India has gained as far as working on this platform is concerned, it shows the kind of faith that he has on this platform. Because as far as, coming to a second question, as far as this twin-seater aircraft variant is concerned, the first aircraft was handed over, or rather delivered by the HAL, the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, to the Indian Air Force just last month, in the month of October, and this is the first of the 18 twin-seater aircraft versions of Tejas that are to be received by the Indian Air Force. So that shows that how much faith the Prime Minister himself has to sit and fly in the aircraft as far as the sortie is concerned, and that reposes faith in the kind of hard work that the scientists have done and the technological progress that we have achieved while working on this platform. So certainly that is one. And as far as the Tejas platform is concerned, it is second to none, as he has himself said, because when we talk about the technology that has been used in this particular platform and the kind of promises that it has showed in sort of a platform being that in sort of a platform that can be in fact developed to maybe a fifth generation aircraft, a much more technological superior aircraft. So certainly that is the promise that the LCA Tejas holds. So certainly, Prime Minister sitting in the aircraft will not only boost morale of the scientists, but also the air warriors of the Indian Air Force.
Okay, and Akshay, how's Tejas as compared to contemporary platforms? If you could just tell us about that.
Well, Tejas is a 4.5 plus generation aircraft that is that puts India among the group of a very few countries that have the capabilities or the technological know-how of developing such a platform, such an aircraft. Building any kind of fighter jet aircraft, supersonic fighter jet aircraft, is a very complicated and a very complex procedure. It is a very complex science that goes into the platform. It's not just about the engines, but the airframe, the kind of metals that are used, the kind of technologies that are to be developed to make these kind of platforms work, and that's why it takes a lot of time to develop some similar kind of platforms. Yeah. And Tejas is perhaps one of the best in the category of light combat aircraft. It is capable of conducting several kind of roles, be it the surveillance role, be it air-to-air fight, be it air-to-ground operation.
All right, Akshay.
All kind of operation can be done by Tejas in all weather conditions.
All right. Thank you so much for that analysis, Akshay. And now a 4-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas began on Friday as first batch of 24 hostages were sent back from Hamas. 13 Israelis and 10 Thai citizens were among those freed. Israel on Saturday put out a list of captives to be freed today.
There was a sense of joy as crowds of Israelis welcomed hostages released by Hamas. Hamas released 24 hostages in exchange for 39 Palestinian prisoners on day one of the 4-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. The deal was brokered by Qatar, Egypt and the United States. According to the agreement, a total of 50 hostages are to be released by Hamas in return for 150 Palestinian prisoners over a span of 4 days. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to social media to confirm the release of hostages.
We have now completed the return of our first of our hostages, children, their mothers and other women, each and every one of them in a whole world. But I emphasize to you, the families, and to you, the citizens of Israel, we are committed to the return of all our hostages. This is one of the goals of the war, and we are committed to achieving all the goals of the war.
US President Joe Biden also hailed the release.
Over the next few days, we expect that dozens of hostages will be returned to their families. We also remember all those who are still being held and renew our commitment to work for their release as well. 2 American women and 1 4-year-old child, Abigail, who remains among those missing. We also will not stop until we get these hostages brought home and an answer to their whereabouts. I remain in personal contact with the leaders of Qatar, Egypt, and Israel to make sure this stays on track and every aspect of the deal is implemented.
The Israeli army said that hostages were escorted by the Red Cross crew to Egypt through the Rafah crossing. They were later transferred to hospitals where they also met their family members. A first pause since October 7th in the 7 weeks of continuing conflict has come as a relief, though both sides state the truce is just temporary.
The Israeli military released video of what it says is aid entering Gaza via the Rafah crossing on the first day of the conflict's truce. The UN Humanitarian Office said 137 trucks of goods had been offloaded in Gaza, the biggest convoy received since October 7th. US President Joe Biden earlier said there was a real chance of extending the truce and that the pause in fighting was a critical opportunity to get humanitarian aid into Gaza. Moving on, the UK's governing Conservative Party has received a boost in the polls following tax cuts announced in the autumn statement on Wednesday. According to some polls, the decision may help the ruling party lead the upcoming general elections. But the opposition Labour Party remains firmly ahead, and some economists are taking a more critical view of the statement's tax cuts. DD India correspondent Stuart Smith reports for more on this from London.
The Times polling of voter intentions shows the Conservative Party climbed from 21 percentage points to 25. Labour retains 44% of survey respondents' support, a commanding lead ahead of a likely general election next year. The boost comes after Chancellor Jeremy Hunt unveiled tax cuts, which he had previously warned would be virtually impossible given the still high inflation and low growth plaguing the British economy. The surprise tax cuts have been interpreted by some analysts as a sign the government may be planning to hold a general election sooner rather than later, with one having to take place before January 2025. A favourable economic government forecast suggested that the Treasury can expect stronger than previously predicted revenues. Hunt's tax cuts would cost an estimated $25 billion US, and along with higher debt interest rates and benefit costs, will take up the majority of that revenue. Some economists, though, are sceptical of the feasibility of the announced tax cuts and increased financial support without cutting back spending on services. Labour's Shadow Chancellor criticised the plans proposed by her opposite number, saying that nothing set out in the autumn statement would remotely compensate for the increased financial pressures felt by British households. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
Finland's Prime Minister said on Friday that an unusually high inflow of migrants to the Nordic country from Russia must stop, adding that it was a matter of national security. He was addressing a press conference in Helsinki along with his Latvian counterpart Evika Salina. Finland has temporarily closed all but one of its 8 passenger crossings to Russia in response to an unusually high inflow of migrants, for which the country accuses Moscow. On Friday, the Irish police detained 34 people in the aftermath of stabbing of 3 children in Dublin. The incident that occurred on Thursday had left 2 adults and 3 children seriously injured, along with many others, sparking riots in the Irish capital. The unrest that started after the incident continued on the second day too, as rioters continued to damage public properties and clashed with the police. Police warned of further violence, blaming far-right agitators for stalking the riots. More than 1,000 people gathered in Amsterdam in support of groups facing discrimination in the Netherlands after Geert Wilders won Wednesday's elections. In Amsterdam's central Dam Square, people lit candles or held up cell phone lights in a mostly silent protest 2 days after the general elections. Wilders' election win led to protests in several cities. In Amsterdam, demonstrators expressed shock and anger at the election results. Argentina President-elect Javier Milei spoke with the director of the International Monetary Fund regarding plans to adjust the country's fiscal policy and monetary program. IMF Director Kristalina Georgieva later said that they discussed about the significant challenges ahead for Argentina's economy and decisive policy actions needed. The country is currently facing inflation nearing 150%, a looming recession, and net reserves seen at negative $10 billion. Argentina is tied up by a $44 billion loan program from the IMF that veered off track. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has made an essential commitment to finalize the 2024 budget by the end of this year, following a disturbing court decision that derailed the country's spending plans. His government was forced to freeze new spending after the court declared his plans unconstitutional. In a video message reassuring citizens and investors, Scholz promised to revise the budget, lift the debt brake, and secure aid plan for this year. The country's traditionally strict fiscal policy is being called into question, sparking calls for reform as it looks for ways to support industry without increasing taxes. The Chancellor is expected to give a statement to Parliament on the issue next week. The European Union's top human rights envoy meet on Friday with Cuban officials as the island's government faces criticism from the European bloc, the United States, and the right groups for jailing protesters during anti-government demonstrations in July of 2021. European Union representatives Eamon Gilmore said topics such as economic, social, cultural, civil, and political rights were on the table with top Cuban officials after 2 days of meetings with the island's government and civil society. Cuba's government blames the U.S. government for stalking the protests in a bid to overthrow Cuba's government and says those detained are guilty of assault, vandalism, and sedition, among other crimes. Well, still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Ukrainian forces say that they have repelled 60 Russian attacks as fighting continues. Voting is underway in the assembly elections in the Indian state of Rajasthan.
platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the global south with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Russia and Ukraine pressed on with their military operations on Friday, striking each other's military targets according to official briefings from the two countries. Russia claims that its forces have repelled Ukrainian attacks in multiple directions, while Ukraine said its forces hit concentrations of Russian troops, weapons and military equipment. The Russian Defense Military reported on Friday that its armed forces inflicted 31 group strikes with high-precision weapons and unmanned aerial vehicles on Ukrainian military airfield infrastructure. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces continued their offensive operations and repelled more than 60 Russian assaults in eastern Ukraine. The Ukrainian missile troops hit two concentrations of troops, weapons and military equipment and one logistics center of Russia, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar attended the International Relations Conference 2023 with the theme India's Strategic Culture. Addressing the event, the minister stressed on the global political rebalancing. Dr. S. Jaishankar said that many more countries are now becoming a part in the shaping the big political discussions and debates.
Over the years, there has also been a political rebalancing in the world. So if you look at the big political discussions and debates, many more countries shape it and participate in it than perhaps they did a few decades ago. But it's not just who is talking. It is also what are they talking, whose terms are they using, what is the narrative, what are the metaphors, what are the terms in which the conversation is taking place, what are the concepts. And that is where, if we reflect on it, you realized that the world perhaps has not changed as much as we think it is.
And India's Minister of State for External Affairs, V. Muralidharan, paid an official visit to Tanzania and Kenya from November 2023. During his visit, MOS called on the President of Zanzibar and expressed his commitment to further strengthening cooperation with India, including in the areas of trade and investment. MOS also visited IIT Madras, Zanzibar campus and interacted with students and faculty. Driven by mutual interest across various areas, India and Malaysia have elevated the level of strategic partnership and working on ways to boost trade and investment. They're also working on cooperation in new areas like fintech, green energy and digital economy. India's High Commissioner to Malaysia, B.N. Reddy, said that India-Malaysia partnership will be taken to new heights.
I would like to believe that would enhance our already existing engagement between India and Malaysia. A better perspective of the relationship can be given through your presence and through your interactions. At this point in time, we've just concluded 65 years of our diplomatic relations last year, and we are in the process of now what we call realizing the enhanced strategic partnership, which was established during the visit of Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, in 2015, where it was decided that our engagement with Malaysia would be taken to newer heights, wherein covering, I would say, the entire spectrum of the relationship.
The rescue operation at the Silkyara tunnel has hit another roadblock as auger drilling machine has broken down. The authorities have now taken the alternate method of vertical drilling, which could now take longer time to reach the trapped workers. The wait for the workers to see the light of the day seems to be longer now. The vertical drilling is expected to begin by today afternoon as the machine is being moved to the top of the hill. Senior authorities are making their way to the tunnel and holding talks to ascertain the next move in the rescue operation. And voting is underway in Indian state of Rajasthan for the assembly elections for the 199 seats out of 200 assembly constituencies of the state. According to the Election Commission, around 24.74% of voter turnout was recorded till 11 a.m. IST. 51,890 polling stations have been set up for more than 5 crore 26 lakh voters in the state. About 2,75,000 polling personnel have been deployed to ensure smooth polling in the state. And let's take a look at other stories making news today. The National Cadet Corps is celebrating its 75th anniversary. On this occasion, Indian Defence Secretary Giridhar Armane and NCC Director General Lieutenant General Gurbir Pal Singh paid tribute to the martyrs at the National War Memorial in India's capital today.
देश के लिए सर्वोच्च बलिदान देने वाले वीर शहीदों को एनसीसी के 3 स्कंधों के कैडेट्स ने गार्ड ऑफ ऑनर के जरिए श्रद्धांजलि दी। इस मौके पर
Vikas Bharat Sankalp Yatra reached India's Hapur district. Apart from Meri Kahani, Meri Zubani certificates were also distributed to the beneficiaries of various schemes in the village. The aim of Sankalp Yatra is to ensure that the benefits of government schemes reach the last person in the village. The campaign was inaugurated by the Indian Prime Minister on November 15th. The third edition of Folk Tea Festival started on Friday at the India's Assam State's popular singer and music director Joy Barua inaugurated the festival. The festival aims to promote tea tourism and create awareness about Assam's tea industry history, folk culture of the local people and communities associated with tea production. On day one, students observed the night sky with special telescope. Also, astronomical scientists shared thoughts on solar system and other scientific aspects through virtual mode. Magma-induced seismic activity has left homes broken in Grindavik, a small Icelandic town of about 4,000 residents. The town was earlier evacuated following a warning of a feared volcanic eruptions. The residents are desperate but unable to return as the threat of volcanic eruption remains imminent. Authorities say they will carry out daily assessments to decide whether to allow their return. Seismic activity has significantly increased in the area since the first indications on November 10 and strong earthquakes rocked the peninsula, which lies in southwest Iceland. Mount Etna, the towering volcano on the east coast of Sicily, Italy, has once again captured the world's attention with its eruption. The eruption sent a plume of ash and lava into the sky, visible from various parts of Mediterranean island. Despite the potential hazards, operations at Catania Airport, located near the base of the volcano, have not been disrupted. In addition to Mount Etna, Europe is on alert for another potential volcanic event. This has led to the evacuation of thousands of residents as a precautionary measure. On to sports now. Young pistol shooter Anish Bhanwala won India's first ever medal in 25-meter rapid-fire pistol event in the ISSF World Cup Final on Friday. The 21-year-old shot 27 in the final to win the bronze in the prestigious competition in Doha. The medal in the season-ending competition capped a momentous year for the 21-year-old who won a first-ever senior individual ISSF World Cup stage medal and a first senior Asian championship medal and a Paris Olympic quota place. The top-seeded pair of Satvik Sairaj and Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty stormed into the semi-final of the China Masters Super 750 tournament in a straight-game victory on Friday. The Indian duo will face Chinese pairs He Ji and Ren Jiang Yu in the semi-finals of men's doubles on Saturday. In tennis, Serbia will take on Italy in Davis Cup semi-finals on Saturday. Djokovic and Sinner will be the center of attention in their tie. This will be their third duel this month. The two faced off twice at last week's ATP finals. The Italian got upper hand in the group stage, but the Serb had the best laugh as he defeated his younger rival in the final to win the title. And Australia reached second successive Davis Cup final after it earned a 2-0 win over Finland. The 28-time champions will face Serbia or Italy, who will meet in the second semi-final on Saturday. Alex de Minaur defeated Emil Razvuri 6-4, 6-3, and Alexei Popyrin trounced Otto Virtanen 7-6, 6-2 to earn the berth in the final. Finland is the only country which has not won a Davis Cup crown after the Netherlands lost to Italy, but their desire to make a first final in the elite men's team competition has ended. FIFA has started investigation into the crowd disturbances that led to a delay in the World Cup qualifier between Brazil and Argentina in Rio de Janeiro. Brazil and Argentina fans came to blows during the national anthems at the Thursday's game. The incident prompted police to baton charge at the travelling contingent. Argentinian captain Lionel Messi went over to the terraces to try and calm the situation before leaving the pitch for more than 10 minutes. FIFA said in a statement that FIFA can confirm that its disciplinary committee has opened proceedings against the Brazilian Football Association and the Argentinian Football Association as well. The game started after some delay and Argentina won 1-0 due to header from defender Nicolas Otamendi. South Africa has withdrawn the bid to host the Women's World Cup in 2027, the Football Association said on Friday. South Africa was among the 4 bids confirmed by FIFA, but the country will instead focus on submitting a bid for the 2031 tournament. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bhardwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.